What is going on, guys? It's Kier, and today I'm going to be showing you how to improve at Valorant. Now, it's going to be a no bullshit guide. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Some of these tips might hurt some egos, but I mean, it has to be said. If you really do want to improve, there isn't really too much to it. You just have to be honest with yourself and be willing to improve. Now, this is not going to be like scripted or anything. I'm just going to be straight up talking, and it's going to be like not a ranty video, but it's going to be a very genuine video to the point where it's going to be like everything that I've learned so far, and I'm not going to be writing down a script and trying to follow it or anything like that. I'm just gonna be completely like honest. So starting off with the first thing is people's aim. So people's aim is something that a lot of people worry about. It's one of the biggest fears for anybody that plays any kind of like tactical shooter. But your aims, you might be focusing on something on your aim that's not as important as you think it is. I see a lot of people whenever they warm up on the range or whatever, that they tend to like get in there and just start flicking and doing dumb shit. But that's not gonna improve you as a player. What a lot of people don't realize when it comes to like mouse aiming is that it takes a lot of not just flicking, because flicking is the least important part of your aim, but the tracking is what's more important. So tracking is the ability to keep your cursor on your enemy while they move. And the reason this is probably the most important thing that you have to learn is that's kind of what the entire Valorant gameplay is. Odds are you're not gonna catch people standing still too much. If you're holding an angle, people are going to peek you and they're going to be running, right? If you are walking towards someone, good players will tend to take a few steps in either direction and then start shooting at you to throw off your aim. And if your tracking is not on point, then you're going to lose that gunfight because you're not going to be able to keep your crosshair, on the person's head. Not only that, when you take into account that people tend to hold down the spray button and don't really tap shoot, the odds of you keeping your crosshair on that enemy and also accounting for recoil is also pretty low. One good way to improve at this is aim labs and Kovacs. Now, I don't always suggest aim trainers like that because I don't always believe that they're necessary to be like that good of a player. But if you're really struggling in that a certain field of aiming, then I would really suggest it because it's good at building muscle memory at whatever you're pretty much lacking in. But yes, I think tracking is super important. People don't really take that into consideration too much. People just think that if you can hit flicks, that you're going to be able to win gunfights, and that's obviously not the case. Also, you want to make sure that you have a sense where you feel comfortable tracking rather than flicking. I noticed that a lot of people try to find a sensitivity with their mouse where they can flick comfortably, and while being able to flick is good because it's going to get you some kills here and there, if you can't track properly, then it's going to be a problem for you in the long run. Just trust me on that. I had to learn that the hard way over my years on PC. Try to find a sensitivity where you can 180 comfortably. Okay, that's important. Try to find a sensitivity where you can keep your crosshair on your enemy. That's the most important thing. The flicks will come if you have a sense that is too low and you have trouble flicking on people, but you can track properly. Then I suggest you just keep that sense and train your flicking that way. If you have a sense that you can flick really fast, but it's too fast for you to track your enemy and you lose track of them, then lower it, because trust me, that is the most important part of aiming, making sure to keep your crosshair on your enemy. And if you can't do that with your whatever sensitivity you have, then it's not a good sensitivity. Also, be sure to realize that a lot of the times there are senses that people follow, like pro player senses, and a lot of people will kind of gravitate towards those when, in all honesty, people are different. If you take Brax, for example, he has like a 0.4 400 DPI sense, which is much lower than anybody else, but he's a fucking monster at Valorant, right? A lot of the pros that use a sense know the game inside and out, so they don't only focus on their aim, but they focus on positioning, they focus on game awareness, and their aim is kind of there as a last form of defense against the enemy. So in other words, if they don't have the ability to outsmart the enemy, then they'll rely on their aim and their flicks and their tracking and all that. But they're good not just because of their aim, okay? There's a lot of cracked people on rank that have really, really good aim that would never be able to be pro because they just don't have the know-about. So instead of going and trying to copy the sense of other people, then just try to find your own thing, man. Try to find your own sense and something that you feel comfortable 180ing and tracking, and let the flicking come naturally. So moving on to our next topic is learning to take the blame for things that are your fault and learning to not fault people for things that aren't their fault. And I have a lot of friends that tend to blame teammates for losses. And yes, teammates can be random. You can get a bunch of RNG teammates where some of them are bad, some of them are good. And sometimes I'm in plat or diamond and I get teammates that look like they never played Valorant in their life, and that's just the way it is, man. But you got to learn that never blaming yourself for a loss, always blaming your teammates or the enemy team for smurfing or whatever, is never gonna cause you to improve. Whenever I have a bad game, I will call myself out on it. I'll be like, okay, I played bad. Sometimes my teammates do fuck up, and okay, it is what it is. But it's not all the time. Okay, the odds that you have a bad team every single game are very unlikely. And people will always use that excuse. People will always say, okay, well, maybe you just don't have bad teammates, but I always do. Okay, well, that's not how it works. Okay, like, it's honestly just an excuse if you're using that every single time you play. Because if you're really a good player, you will eventually begin to climb, because not all your teammates are going to be bad. You have to learn to take blame for a lot of shit that you do that deep in your mind that it's your fault, but you're never gonna admit it. If you miss a shot, you're gonna be like, oh, why did that guy even get to that point, right? My teammate should have been watching that angle, and yeah, maybe he should have, but I mean, maybe he should have hit the shot as well. You have to be just constantly aware of the mistakes you're making, because if you're not, then you're never gonna improve as a player. Now, the same goes for being honest with your problems in game. Sometimes you might shoot at somebody and miss every shot and you die, and you'll blame like, oh, they got lucky that they peeked me at this time or whatever, but deep in your heart it was like your recoil control or something, your positioning or whatever. If you know what the problem is but you just don't admit it, you have to improve on that problem, whatever it is. If it's your recoil control, if it's your aim, if it's your game awareness, maybe you play too aggressively, maybe you play too defensively. You have to figure out what your problem is, and you got to be honest about it. If you just keep on trying to hide the problems you have behind excuses like your teammates, or getting lucked out, or getting timed, which does happen, but it's not going to happen every single time. Like, it's not a consistent excuse for you to be able to say that. You have to just be honest with yourself and try your best to improve whatever mistakes you have. And there's no bad thing about that. A lot of people tend to be very aggressive or defensive when it comes to calling out people's mistakes. They want to be the next big star, and they want to be seem perfect, like they're not gonna make a mistake ever. Like, and I'm sure you've seen people like that in rank, that whenever you say anything, they'll be like, no, it's your fault because you did this. Like, I shouldn't have had to take that gunfight, or I shouldn't have gotten peeked or whatever. People will always say that, man. Like, in any game, people are always gonna have excuses, and some people are very good at making it seem like it's your fault, but sometimes it's just not. And you do not want to be that person. Even if you're not in a game, telling random that they're trash, you can still be mentally putting up a blockade at improving, because you're constantly blaming somebody else for your mistakes. So moving on to our next topic, and it's probably going to be a topic that's going to hurt a lot of egos out there, and it is that you have to know your role as a Valorant player. Okay, everybody wants to be the next fucking Jet Star. Everybody wants to be like Tens and Shroud and Enter and just kill everyone. But, that might not be your role. I think I'm pretty good with Jet, but on days where my aim is bad, and sometimes I have a lot of days where my aim could be trash, I play somebody else, man. Like, I know that I'm not benefiting to the team by trying to insta-lock Jet if I'm not playing at my full potential. And people have to learn that. You might be the best Killjoy player in NA, but you'll never know, because all you want to do is play Jet, or play Reyna. Like, you have to find a role that you're really good at, and it might not be the flashiest role available, but it's a role that you're going to excel at, and you're going to, be able to climb. And this goes for, a lot of games, but Valorant in particular, because, like, say nobody wants to play smokes, right? You could be the best controller player in the world, and you never know, because nobody ever wants to play smokes. Okay, I think I'm a pretty good smoke. If I feel like I have a teammate, a random, that is gonna fill, but he doesn't know how to play smokes, I'll play smokes. Okay, it's whatever, man. I'd rather be able to give my, high efficiency in a character rather than have it rely on somebody else. So if you have a team, like say you have a 4 or 5 man, right, like a stack, and you always want to play Jet, but you don't have the best aim. Say you have a friend that has a way better aim than you, it would not hurt you to give that person Jet. Like, you have to let go of any ego you have. Okay, you have to play smokes if you got to play smokes. Play anything that you feel like you're good at, and you should learn every role. So if you only play one character, you should definitely try every other character in the game, because you just don't know what you're going to be good at. And the last tip for today is trying to have a positive attitude when entering a ranked game when you're not playing with a team. Now, this can also be a thing, whenever you are with a 5-star, whatever. But I'm talking about, like, mainly when you have a few randoms on your team. So I solo queue. Every time I stream, I solo queue every night. Okay, I never have people to play with. So I literally climb my way to Diamond, High Plat, Immortal, just solo queuing. But every time I enter a game, I always start off with a positive attitude, not only to myself, but to my team. So, I'll enter a game and I'll be like, yo, what's up, motherfuckers? Like, what y'all doing? How y'all doing? And everyone's like, oh, we're doing good, right? It's a cool day. What's up? What's up? Like, huh? You chilling or whatever? So I have a conversation with the team that I have. And you don't know the world of difference that makes, okay? Whenever you're in plat or diamond, you have to be able to fully work with your team because odds are the people on the enemy team know what they're doing. So you can't just be fucking around. It's not gonna work like that. Um, so I notice, and I've noticed this, over my year of Valorant. Whenever I enter a game and I start a friendly conversation, kind of cut the tension with the new people that you have, because sometimes, whenever you get a team of random, sometimes you feel like there's tension because you don't know how the other players are. Like you could have a toxic ass dude on your team. Like people don't really want to talk all the time. So I'm always that person that breaks the ice and it kind of tries to vibe with the people on my team. And whether we win or lose, I notice that I have a lot more fun in these games. But not only that, I feel like I win a lot more often whenever my teammates, like, return that good positivity and positive vibes. Like, it's amazing how much of a difference it can make. Like, when you're that one person that initiates the conversation. And it can be something simple, man. Like, I literally join a game and I'm be like, yo, like I had you last game, bro. Like you hit some nutty ass shots, and the person would be like, oh, thank you, bro. Like, yeah, I was really proud of those shots or whatever. And you make that person's day not only with that, but they play out of their minds. And I noticed that they play way better whenever they feel reassured that they're not bad. Okay, for some reason in Valorant, people tend to have the idea that they're not good enough to be in that rank. I don't know why it's so like so common in Valorant. I feel like in every other game, people kind of like are too egotistical. People think that they're better than their rank. Like in Siege, if you go to Siege, people will honestly be in plat one and be like, "Yo, I should be fucking diamond, but my random they're trash." And like people are like that. They're over egotistical. Okay, like they think they're way better than the rank that they're in. In Valorant, that's like maybe 10% of the people that I find. Everybody else like thinks that they shouldn't be in that rank, that they're not good enough. Like they lose a gunfight and they're not like, oh, this guy is fucking trash. Like he's a bitch for peeking me. No, they're like, oh man, like I'm so trash. Like I feel bad. Like people don't like that, man. And whenever you reassure people and you make them feel better, they will honestly 9 times out of 10 play better than they're supposed to, because they feel that reassured them. They don't feel the pressure to be as good as they need to be in that rank. And like you have to be that factor.